Homes and Hops is proudly supported by Platte Insurance, your local independent insurance agency offering auto, home, life, business, and farm insurance. They also have a team of specialists that help you with insuring your brewery or winery. Platte Insurance, helping you protect your tomorrow. For more information or a quote, please call them at 330-856-6244 or visit them on the web at platteinsurance.com. Hey everyone, Lisa Resnick for Homes and Hops at Youngstown Studios with the man, the creator, the myth, the legend, Joe Danyi. Very, I know it's Hungarian. Yes. You just mentioned that, but I do. I think it sounds French.
All right, I'll be French for the day.
There you go. There you go. You kind of have the look too.
Yeah?
Yes. Very I can't even speak today. What is it? Monday?
It is. Monday number 2.
It is. Like this entire week is just condensed, isn't it?
It is. It's very busy days now, you know?
Okay. So this is like really my opportunity to like really dive into everything behind Youngstown Studio and you.
The story behind the story.
I know. I really want to know the story. So where did it all begin? Are you originally from this area?
I am. Yeah, I grew up in Girard.
Okay.
And then I moved to Struthers when my wife got a job as a teacher over there. And then I'm in Poland after so many years.
So real quick, let's talk about the fact that you went Trumbull to Mahoning.
Yes.
Was that like a big deal?
You know, Girard and Struthers were so similar. I mean, even like the marketplace and how people operated and government, the whole thing was very similar. We spent a lot of, I did business when I was in Trumbull County. So I found myself in Mahoning County a lot of the time anyhow, because that's, the business districts were.
But don't you feel like growing up, there's such a separation when we're so close to one another, even like Columbiana County, like there's such a separation between each of our counties, but yet we're all part of the valley at the same time and pretty cohesive, but yet there's such a difference. At least that's how I felt growing up.
Yeah, and even how one treats the other. We had relatives that lived in Girard, and when we mentioned that we were moved to Poland, they like talked about it like we were a state away, like it was so far of a distance.
That's how people treat Canfield to Poland.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're all the way
over there
in Poland.
Does the bus run over that way?
I know. I don't know if I can drive all that way. It's like, really, it's not even 5 miles down the road.
Right.
But yeah, 100%. And even like the whole developers. So you had Cafaro development company that is in Trumbull. Then you had DeBartolo in Mahoning. So there was even that whole dynamic as well.
And they were similar in the things that they took on, like they both had malls and
very similar.
Yeah.
So did you happen to go to Youngstown State?
For a little stint at Youngstown State. I was pursuing psychology. It was what I really loved.
Okay, so I really need to watch what I say.
Yeah. And then, I started doing tech when I was 13 years old.
Oh,
and
really?
So I was doing that to pay for school. But then when I had a chance to jump at opportunities, it kind of like took priority over the schooling, and I just went down that track.
So when you said you were doing tech, what were you doing?
Fixing computers, putting networks together,
taking
programming.
Apart.
Oh yeah, the whole thing. I mean, like I said, at 13 years old, I'm writing on my Commodore 64 programming. So I was a nerd in the biggest degree. So.
I was a nerd too.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, so I was definitely. I was domestic extemporaneous speaker.
Nice.
like I was one of those nerds as well. So
awesome.
I mean, I think that us nerds have grown up very, very well, don't you?
That's it. I do. I'm proud of us.
That's right. I'm very proud of us too. We all have friends, and I always say this, and I say this because I have 2 kids, and I always say to them, I was like, listen, your world expands as you grow.
For sure.
And that's one of the greatest things. So keep on going and keep on growing. I know our probably base, especially with social media, has even grown even further.
Yeah, and its evolution, like I got to see it when it was in its infancy in the 90s, and it wasn't all that useful. So if it weren't for our trailblazers of like hammering it out to see what we could make use-wise, it wouldn't be where it is today.
You definitely were, especially in the tech world. So you started off working in tech, playing around with electronics when you were younger, and then you utilized that to help you out with Youngstown State.
Yep.
And then from there,
just blew this company up big time.
So how long ago was that?
So it was, I started the first company probably right out of high school. So like 96, 97.
What was the first company?
NICN is what it was called.
What
NICN
is that?
Computer. So here's the story. So I was writing programming, and the internet was like brand new. And I had like this desire to set up a mall, but virtually. And this is the 90s, right?
Okay.
Didn't exist. So I pictured the, like a graphical interface.
How old were you when you were thinking like this?
I was in my 20s, early 20s.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so I had this idea that I was going to do a national internet commerce network. So I was going to sell stuff, right?
Okay.
And so I wrote the programming to get this little virtual mall that was on the internet where people could sell stuff. And my shopping cart that I created had like, everybody could have 5
You were
items.
like the original Amazon guy.
I was,
Bezos.
Right? So each one of my stores could only have like 5 products. So the whole store maxed out at like 100 products completely because I was using visual things instead of text. So I only had so much screen room. And so I had my completed software done. And so I started going around in businesses in Girard, and I started asking like, hey, I've got this internet thing. Do you have some products here you would want to put on the internet and see if you could sell? They all looked at me like I was a freaking idiot. Right? They had no idea what I was talking about.
Yes.
And I was so like disheartened, and it killed me because I got nobody to be able to give me products to set up this deal. So what I did was I made NICN into a computer services company because obviously the original idea didn't go anywhere. So then NICN,
which was a great idea.
It was a little bit too before its time.
Great idea. So then you started this other company.
Yeah, started NICN Computers, and then I started doing software and fixing computers, building computers, and stuff like that. And that was in sort of like Gateway had yet to really take over the PC market. So we were building a bunch of like computers, physical computers.
That's phenomenal. And you were in your early 20s.
I was.
And then from there, what was the next company? How many companies do you own?
A lot of different. And so NICN, we had some, obviously people go through these trials, throughout their life. And one of the trials really hit and killed NICN. So I had to scratch NICN and start over. Like I had a year that kind of disappeared from my calendar kind of a thing. Okay. And so when I came back, I still had the knowledge to do this. So I started, working retail. I worked at Staples. I worked at, a couple other places just to get money generated. And I started doing subcontracting work for other computer companies so that when they needed some like big thing, they would contract me, and then I'd go out there and do the computer services. After that, I had enough customers and enough, presence there. Because at the same time, I was kind of doing my own thing. And I had enough stuff that I started Youngstown Computer. And this would have been like 2007, 2008. And, grew residential services, grew commercial services, and everything beyond that was a sort of like a branch from that tree.
That's amazing. So every company that you have is connected to tech.
Yep, for sure.
So how many companies are there?
I want to say 8 probably right now.
Right now.
Yeah. Always developing a new one. So like right now we're doing the makerspace over in Struthers.
Okay.
And so Youngstown Computer Services is over in Struthers. The suite next to it, we set up all of our like equipment.
Do you sleep?
Of course I do. I drink lots of coffee, and I wake up super early in the morning.
I drink lots of coffee too. Maybe a Red Bull midday, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it is.
We talk faster that way.
I know, and it's necessary. It's truly necessary in order to get me, because I'll stay up until like 11 o'clock working at night. And maybe also having Lost right now in the background, because 20 years ago, I'm now watching Lost.
Are you at the obsession stage with Lost yet?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But, and which I refuse to watch at the beginning. Like, I'm one of those people that if it's like the trend and everybody's doing it, I won't do it. Like,
nonconformist. I love it.
I missed out on Hamilton because of that.
Yep.
But I did see it during the pandemic when Disney Plus had it on TV. And I truly realized that I probably should have gone when I was offered the ticket instead of being the obstinate person I can be.
I love it. I have an appreciation for that.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So when did Youngstown Studios get created?
So back sort of like in the midst of all of this, I did some marketing and promotion for a NASCAR team. And
Okay.
really all of my businesses stem from if nobody's in an area and I see that there's value there, I'll jump in and like forge the area.
Okay.
And NASCAR teams at the time, there was a bunch of money flowing through there. None of them had internet presence or marketing presence on the website. So we have a local driver here that I decided to say, hey, would you like to do this? And you would be different from whatever. So I set up a radio show, like an internet radio show for a NASCAR driver back in the early 2000s. Right.
Okay.
And so, I did his marketing, promotion, merchandise sales, and all of that. And I got to know all of these like really good NASCAR teams and learn how they did marketing different than, I knew very crude versions of marketing, not necessarily how the professionals were doing it, but I got the best education from that process. But I set up one of my rooms, a whole broadcast booth. It's like all of the computers, all of the servers and audio equipment. So I learned the audio equipment back in that stint. And then also when I started Youngstown Computer, I started Dan Rivers on WKBN.
Yes.
I was an avid talk radio listener.
Okay.
And I was driving around one day on the computer services and I heard him struggling out at the Eastwood Mall. They did those live remote broadcasts. And so I went out to the mall and rescued him. And this was back on dial-up. So he was trying to do a broadcast over dial-up. So I connected all of this equipment to get him the ability to broadcast from the mall and saved him. And then so from that point, we started doing small segments, like little 15-minute segments with his audience. His audience was 55 plus that didn't even know what a computer was. So again, nobody was going after that territory. So I decided I was going to make a run at it.
Isn't it amazing to think back 20 years ago or 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and the growth in the tech world that we've had?
For sure. Could not have predicted how it grows this fast.
No way. It's amazing that it is one of those things. So you're probably constantly researching and looking at what's coming up and what's upcoming, especially if you're trying. I feel like you're very much the visionary that sees things and the ability to do things with tech.
For sure.
Before it's become popular.
Yeah. And a lot of those ideas that I've had, I had no ability to actually turn them into anything, but I tried and then I watched them come to fruition. It pisses me off a little bit knowing that I had that first,
It's Jeff Bezos, isn't
It
it?
is. And the other, like this was again, early 2000s. And I was sitting in the back room, we were building computers and I was like adding all of the same hardware to all these computers. I'm thinking one day, like we're going to be able to build like supercomputers. And then all the computers we buy are just like kiosks that get us to that supercomputer. So that was like cloud thinking.
The data centers.
Yeah, right. So I had cloud thinking back in the 2000s.
Yes, data centers are pretty big right now, actually pretty big in real estate as well, which I know that if we had the infrastructure for them to be able to build their centers on, and they are, I don't know if you've ever seen a data center.
So impressive.
But they are impressive and it's amazing. So I've worked in the area of managing the space as well as leasing out racks instead of like.
Oh, so you're integrated in that kind of stuff too. Holy crap.
This is back in the day, probably about a decade ago. And for the area in Virginia, Loudoun County, they had the AT&T that was located there. So all the infrastructure and all the wiring was already there. So when they started to downsize, it gave the ability for this other piece of the puzzle to be able to take place there. And I think I want to say, and I could be wrong, that Loudoun County is the number 2 largest and strongest when it comes to data centers.
Really?
Oh, yes.
That's cool.
I mean, on a county-wise, you think about the money generated from that revenue coming into the centers. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. If we had it here, I would definitely be like, we need to push for this because.
Sure. And it's not too late. We could get something like that here. We got infrastructure like it's nobody's business.
We do, and I think from my understanding, out in Trumbull County, Cafaro and the land that he owns, I know that he's working towards or is trying to attract that type of business. I could be 100% wrong in that, but that'd be great. And then recently when I was actually out showing Salt Springs Road that the city owns one of the buildings out there, I mean, it's raised floors. And the first thing I thought about was
It'd be a perfect data center.
It would be a perfect data center. And I'm like, where's like the electric? Where do we have like the main hub coming in, the power coming into this place? How close is it
Look
located?
at you visionary. Is that a verb?
I don't know. We'll make it one. Why not? But that's interesting. So you started off with Dan at the Eastwood Mall.
Yep.
And then you were like, hey.
Yeah, he'd bring me on every once in a while. We'd talk some tech stuff because he had an interest in it. And that grew into like a half-hour segment, an hour segment. And now I'm like on for 3 hours on a Saturday. And I have a whole group, an audience that, that tech is intimidating, especially if you don't know what you're doing. You feel stupid and nobody wants to feel stupid.
Every day.
So
that's me.
So my model was, let's make it non-intimidating, have a place that if you don't know something, let's help everybody else kind of get on the same page. And so I have a whole group of people that's followed that program from the inception and got good at computers through nothing else but listening to me talk about it.
Oh, wow. That's great. YouTube. Basically creating a YouTube station, but face-to-face, which
physical,
is, I know. But that's great. So then from there, when did you acquire this space?
So the computers we were probably growing 30%, 40% year over year. So we really needed some operating space. We had too many people in the field. Our spaces were too small. So
good problems to have.
Yeah. And I was a little bit upset that I was called Youngstown Computer. All of my companies were Youngstown something, and I never had a Youngstown address. So I said, hey, when I get some space, let me go down Youngstown so I can actually have a Youngstown address. It was kind of weird that was the reason for me coming down here. But I was doing business with Advantage Video upstairs. And so I'd walk by this suite all the time, and I saw this suite always like in disarray and really nothing going on. I thought, if that thing ever comes available, that's going to be my address. And like the next time I walked by, the for lease sign popped out there. I took a picture of it and I said, I want that. And when I sat down to sign the lease, like they said, what's the company name to put at it? Instead of saying Youngstown Computer, which that's what was going to operate here, I said, let's make that Youngstown Studio. And Youngstown Studio wasn't a thing, right? But I wanted Youngstown Studio to be a thing. And so from day one, it said Youngstown Studio on the outside. And
which Joe also created his own logo as well, which I do love. I love the mic coming out of the Y. I think that was pretty cool.
Thank you.
So you moved into this space, which for everyone out there, we're at 201 East Commerce
Street. Yep.
The beautiful white building. I like the stone white building that you have over on the east side of Youngstown, of downtown Youngstown. And it's a phenomenal space.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. And,
and your location's great.
When you walk in, you get to demo all of your stuff. People can see it as they enter the building. It's amazing.
It is, because you do have such a strong visibility where you are. And how much square footage is here?
It's a good question. I don't even know.
So I know everyone, those who watch Homes and Hops, you see us sitting on the couches with the TV in the background, which is, this is my favorite space.
Excellent.
But you have two other spaces that people can record and do record from as well.
Yeah, we have the talk space up front where you have a host and co-host position. We have the stage.
Justin.
Yeah, we have the stage setting. So like when COVID was hitting, comedians, musicians came down here and did virtual concerts and stuff like that. What's being built next to the stage is a voiceover booth. So if people are doing voiceover recordings for their marketing and promotions, they can do it here. And then you have the back room here that has the sit-down interview couch setting and then also the panelist setting. So we really got 5 different studios to play with.
Now, how often do people come and rent out any of the space?
All the time. Yeah. In fact, we actually have After Hours Youngstown. In the Vindies, they're going to be visiting us on the 16th, and we're going to be doing a musical recording up front. So it's those kind of, heck yeah, it's cool stuff going on here.
What do you have to do to like prepare for the sound, everything for something like that?
Every time a musician comes in, it's different. So there's nothing you can do to prepare. I have a table out there that has every cable and connection and converter, so that like we engineer it on the fly. And I got good at that being in the early days, because tech was awful in the beginning, and you really had to be MacGyver with all of your setup. So that's the front part.
And you do have the ear to be able to listen and say, hey, these are the adjustments that I need to make. Even like for me, for instance, you said because of my pitches are different than a male's pitch, that you were able to hear it and adjust it to make it sound
Well,
better.
here's the thing. I'm hard of hearing. So I hear only about 30% of everything. I read lips, right?
Really?
Oh yeah. And I use audio equipment to look at pitches after it's been recorded. So I have to convert all audio stuff to visual. So I run a freaking studio and I can't hear half the crap that comes out of this place.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so during COVID, when everybody was wearing masks, I didn't know what anybody was saying. I would just nod and walk around.
That's right.
Yep.
That had to have been very difficult.
It was too.
That had to have been very, very difficult. So you've been utilizing, so if I right now go over to Morgan over here, who's helping us out, and you're facing the other way, we could just talk
anything
at this normal level?
It depends. It's pitch based. So the 30%, I think I can hear your pitch better than lower tones. I think that's what it ends up being. So I might be able to pick.
It's the mom.
Listen for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joseph.
That's right. That's exactly right. So Joe is also running now too.
I am. Yeah. And I've always had, my goal is to run a marathon, and I've never been able to get beyond a 5K. Like I've just haven't practiced the right things or, stressed myself in the right ways to be a good runner. So she's been helping me out a ton with getting to be a runner like I want to be.
So I used to only run 5Ks myself. And then I ran my first 10K. And then somebody roped me into a 10 miler. And then from the 10 miler, I was like, oh, what's another 3 miles? I started running half marathons. And then I think there was probably about a handful of half marathons that I then thought to myself, why not run the marathon? And I did. I trained a lot, and it does help having a group of people to talk with while you're running, because it's a long time to be out there.
Are you an extrovert or an introvert, by the way? I would guess an extrovert.
I feel like I'm more of an introvert.
Really?
Which is interesting. Now, okay. If I have, maybe that's why I drink the hops. If I have a lot of hops, then I could be a little bit more extroverted. But I do. I get intimidated in crowds, and I definitely can't talk in front of crowds. I can't. It sounds like my voice starts to shake. It sounds like I'm crying.
I spend all of my time avoiding people, and that's you learn best from them, but it's a detriment.
I know, it's hard. So when I first started Homes and Hops too, it was like I had Rachel that Thomas, she's another real estate agent that started it with me. I'm so thankful for her, because I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. So having somebody there with me to make me step out and do what my idea is for was phenomenal. And I will never not be grateful for her for that. But understanding that wasn't necessarily her thing. Like, she was like, all right, Lisa, because I'm like, but we have to meet this time. We have to do this. She took a step back, and her thing is photography, which she's a phenomenal photographer as well, and real estate agent. And so I continued on. And then I think I roped my husband in at one point. And then I've also roped my brokers in at one point. And then finally was like, I need to start doing this on my own, and I can do it. I'll survive. And that's how it just became me.
So let me tell you what you Miss Extrovert here and Mr. Introvert here. I'm using you on Facebook as my running inspiration. Amanda McNinch. I'm using Amanda and Ronna McCall. All three of them run regular enough to get me off of the couch and say, what are you doing right now? Is it helping you become a better runner? No, get out there. Like, you run it in the morning. I'm like, I got coffee. I got shit to do. What do I
do? So we do. I wake up early in the morning. I drink my coffee. I always have to drink coffee before I run. And then I do some work, send out emails or whatever. Try not to text people because it is early. And I have a very difficult time holding off, because what's in your mind, I like to shoot out. And then I go for my run, and then I come back.
Are you doing that for weather? Like, do you always run in the morning?
I do. A lot of it is weather dependent, especially when it was 90 degrees out. I was waking up at 4 a.m. to run at 5 a.m. before it got too hot. Now that my body is a little bit more acclimated, I'm back to like 6:30, 7 a.m. runs, and that's fine. And In the winter, though, I do. I try to wait a little bit longer before I go out for the run because it does get super cold and your muscles do then tense up and then you'll find your stride and everything changing and there's just more of an opportunity.
Is it better to run in the mornings? Is there an advantage to that?
For me, it is.
Okay.
But I know other people that are better in the evenings or around lunchtime, or it doesn't faze them anytime they go out and run. But for me, I'm a better runner in the morning.
Okay. Yeah, I'm more of an evening, like I'll either do treadmill when it's in the winter. I never run outside when it's cold out. It hurts my lungs so bad. I just don't do it.
That's fair.
But I'll swim or I'll do treadmill or I'll run and then I'll hit the sauna and then I'm done for the night. So that's my routine.
See, I can't do a treadmill.
No?
No, I feel like I'm running and I'm not. It's like that nightmare. Like you're trying to run and get out of something and yet you're not moving. You're still in the same space. That's how I feel about running on a treadmill.
What if you had one of those screens that had like a video playing and they could distract you? Would you still do it? Would you do it?
So it's interesting. I did run on a treadmill that had one of those, and I found that my footing, because I would want to run in a different direction.
Oh, you would see the road.
that it would have. But I'm still on a treadmill. I'm not actually on the road in front of me. So I can't run that way around a person that's virtually there. So
yeah, and I don't know if it's easier or harder. I found it like it's easier doing it outside, but it's more of the psychology where you got the sounds of the changing atmosphere and the air and whatever. I like being outside a lot better.
I do. I feel like that's my moment. Like I really do. I'm able to run through any issues or any ideas. What I need to get accomplished that day. Like it's just that moment of me to be able to have that time to think on my own without distractions, which is very difficult these days to find those times.
Yes, for sure.
Very difficult. And I know that you're going to be hitting your marathon sooner than you anticipate, because once you get past that 5K, you'll be good.
Yeah. Well, here's where I'm at. So I couldn't run a 30-minute 5K. So the last 5K I ran, my whole goal was to hit it in under 30 minutes. And I did like 27 something.
Which is amazing.
Right. So the one we're going to run in October, my wife's running along with me and it's her first 5K. Right.
Okay.
And I'm going to pace with her, but I'm going to totally make it a practice session for breathing and heart rate. Like I'm going to try to control both of those things, not worry about times, not worry about distance, just be able to talk and breathe and, pace myself in a way, working on that side. So.
They always say that. Make sure you run at a conversational pace, but they also say always run to train for the marathon, but never run the marathon. Because technically running marathons isn't necessarily good for your body either.
Right.
But we do it.
Do you do any of that high impact stuff where you like sprint and then run down? I mean, is it just running at the same pace or do you put your body through some stresses?
So if I run faster, it's just because of whatever song I'm listening to.
Gotcha.
I think it's like the fartlek or whatever approach where you'll sprint and then slow down and then sprint again. I've never done that, but I'm not running for speed. I'm running for completion. And that is always my goal. I know I'm not going to be one of the top runners and I'm okay with that. So I'm still achieving goals that I never thought I would before. So
when you're running, do you use people ahead of you as like benchmarks?
But I'm used.
You are?
The best is when the young kids will run up to you and then they'll stop and walk and you're still running. Then they run up to you again, stop and walk. It's like, can you please pick someone else? Right?
I got embarrassed at the last Youngstown marathon. I was running the 5K and it was I hit this wall at 2 miles where my breathing just dies and my heart rate goes up. And some really heavy kid, right, was trying to get me to run fast. So as he's tearing by me, he's like, pick it up. And I'm like, oh, please. And this guy that's 4 times my size goes by me like he's the hare and I'm this turtle. So
you definitely you cannot judge people's ability to run by their size at all.
Not at all.
Even height. You can't even do that. I remember there was one of my friends, this is again back in Virginia, I think she was 4'7". And that little girl could run like crazy. Her little legs short would be speeding by everybody. It was amazing. So you can't judge on that either.
Right.
That's why I'm I just want to finish the race and I'm good with that.
No pressures. Right?
I know. then we have my kids being like, did you win? It's like, I won for myself.
My medal. I got it.
Exactly. So for everyone out there, we are drinking some Scrappy German, the Heffenweiser from Modern Methods that Sarah Keck brought last week, which was awesome.
They have quite the lineup. I checked out their stuff, and they've got a lot of stuff.
They do have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of great breweries around here. We really do. We have a lot of great talent, including yourself, because you do.
Thank you.
You have to be innovative these days. You really have to think outside the box, be creative, and be willing to go beyond what you originally thought and knew. And I think that we are very lucky that we have the people that we do have in our area that aren't saying anymore, this is what we've always done. This is how it's always been. And you're one of those people.
Well, thank you. When I was sort of like really getting invested in businesses around here, what I noticed was everybody I was doing business with were older. I didn't see younger people getting involved, right? And after these people retired or went on, who was going to replace them? Who was going to be the local presence in business? And I always wondered, like, when the young people, the younger generation, was going to step up and do stuff. And this ends up being the kind of stuff, the innovative stuff, the next generation. It's not manufacturing facilities anymore. No. It's stuff like this where they can be creative and create products. It's amazing.
And also be social.
Yep.
So it's like they're filling that void that depleted with the tech increase, and that's social media and everything. And they brought back something that was filling a new creative space and bringing back that social aspect as well for people, which is awesome.
Yeah, because you didn't have local, all these breweries when we were young,
No, we didn't. So it's like the new wine.
It is too. I'm really lucky to have so many in our area. You're totally right.
We are very lucky because it makes us a little bit more of a destination place for other people that are craft beer advocates as well to come and stop by. There's plenty of times I've been at a brewery and somebody from out of state was visiting and they wanted to hit up some of the breweries that we had, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And your reach is pretty good, by the way. I kind of was looking through your numbers the other day and where people are listening from. Oh, wow. And you got an international. You got a couple of people in the Netherlands that were checking out you talking about homes. Are
you sure they're not like those bots out there?
Maybe they were, but I'm going to give you credit for you anyway.
Thank you very much. But it's probably from where it's coming from Youngstown Studio, which that's really is strong. It's strong. How many shows do you have going on?
So we've got 7 regular shows, and then we've got 3 under development, and then we've got 2 that are hypothetical sometime in the fall.
Nice.
Yeah. So we got Tuesdays.
Are you gonna grow out of this space?
Oh, heck yeah. No doubt. We've already started talking with a city, and when we do grow out, we've got a place for it that's way bigger. And, we want to get more in the entertainment fields too. So yeah, we're definitely going to grow out of this place. I give it 5 years.
5 years? Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That is pretty good. Well, thank you so much for letting us all know your background and history. And thank you for making a home for our Homes and Hops.
Very happy.
Me too. Cheers.
Cheers.
Homes and Hops is proudly supported by Platte Insurance, your local independent insurance agency offering auto, home, life, business, and farm insurance. They also have a team of specialists that help you with insuring your brewery or winery. Platte Insurance, helping you protect your tomorrow. For more information or a quote, please call them at 330-856-6244 or visit them on the web at platteinsurance.com.